started to panic, I think, as they felt that they'd lost the narrative. Well, even though the Bondi shooters had absolutely nothing to do with the peaceful mass movement in support of basic universal human rights for the Palestinians, these pro-Israel ghouls seized on the tragedy and now seek to use us as a weapon to shut us down and shut us up. It's not going to happen. We can't let it happen. We won't let it happen. The lesson of the Nazi Holocaust not never again. That meant never again for anyone, anywhere. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thank you. Thank you, General Parker, for using Palestine anyway to our party stage. And for a quick update what's happening around the country, we have seen tens of thousands of people march this evening around the country protesting Herzog's visit. So you are amongst thousands and thousands of Australians standing on the right side of history tonight, friends. And in Sydney in particular, they came out despite intense police intimidation. They showed up and they made sure their voices would be heard. But it is shameful that right now in this country, you have more chance of being arrested for peacefully protesting this genocide than the guy who incited the genocide. Shame! Absolutely. Now,
Moving to a better spot.
is the incredible Dr. Victoria Mason.
Bear with me, folks.
She's the expert on human rights in the Middle East. She's a member of Academic Palestine, and she's not here to speak about the people of Israel, but she's serving us. Thank you very much.
We got the fuzz.
Bondi massacre to justify an invited visit by Herzog is not about healing. Shame! As Jewish Australian commentator Saul Selby notes, the government is trying to paint Herzog as a Dalai Lama type of figure. But Herzog is far from a man of peace. He is the man who looked into a camera and said that an entire nation of Palestinians was responsible for October the 7th. The UN Commission of Inquiry found that those words incited genocide. Those words incited genocide. And they have called for the ICC, the International Criminal Court, to prosecute him. It doesn't get much worse than that. Here's the man photographed smiling as he signed the same. Instead, I chose to invite a man who has described the marriage of Jews to non-Jews as a plague. Shame. So this visit is not about cohesion. As Abraham Edwards reminds us, Herzog's visit won't address or reduce anti-Semitism. It is not something that will calm the rocky waters of sectors of the public who are outraged and horrified at our government's support for genocide. It is calculated to placate sectors of the community that are fiercely devoted to the Israeli government, that immediately sought to leverage the massacre in Bondi to press the government to adopt a stronger pro-Israel line and to crack down on Palestine solidarity. Shame. We have seen this crackdown in so many ways already, in the anti-protest laws, in the so-called hate speech legislation that doesn't actually target anti-Semites, and in the efforts to surveil and muzzle the expression of conscience against atrocities in the arts, our universities, our schools, and amongst journalists. It is unlimited. Shame. We see it in the overall Kafkaesque effort to frame the struggle for human rights for everyone as a threat to security. Shame. For Palestinian Australians, as apologies, I'm going to mangle this, I think. Shamika, Badra, and Amy Haider remind us Herzog's visit is a terrible cruelty. It sends the message that their harrowing and heartbreaking losses aren't important to our government, that the Palestinians murdered in Gaza are lives less grievable than others. Shame. By inviting Herzog, the government isn't creating social cohesion, they are inflaming the worst of fractures and weaponising grief to justify a political agenda. This is an absolute travesty. It is an insult to those murdered in Bondi, and it is an insult to the hundreds of thousands of people murdered in Gaza. Supporting genocide will not make the Jewish community safer. It will not make any Australian safer. Our humanity and our struggles for rights and justice are all connected, from Gaza to Iran, from Minneapolis to right here in Paly, where 2 weeks ago our First Nations brothers and sisters were subjected to an abhorrent terrorist attack. We see the spiral towards fascism and we stand firm. No red carpet for incitement. No legitimacy for genocide. Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! From the river to the sea! acknowledging the traditional owners of the land that we stand on and recognize that this land was never ceded, always was, always will be Aboriginal land. It seems that despite our best efforts to leaflet, to put up posters on every wall in this city, to post on social media, to tell everyone we know about this protest, it seems there's still a group of people that don't understand the reason we are here today. It seems that after 2 years of continuous protests for Palestine, that after more than 500,000 Australians marched for an end of this genocide, the message has still not reached those people. In fact, those very people are so high up in their ivory towers. They are so detached from the realities of everyday Australians, from the thousands of Palestinians, that they have shamelessly invited a war criminal to this country. Shame! A war criminal who has presided over the deaths of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians. A war criminal that has written, "I rely on you," onto bombs that were sent to bomb hospitals and shelters and schools in Gaza. And in the face of public outrage, the parasites that are our Australian ruling class, politicians like Penny Wong, bravely ask us to consider the context of this visit. So let's look at the context. The context is 2 years more than 2 years of active genocide in Gaza. The context is more than 70,000 tons of bombs dropped on Gaza in the first 6 months of this genocide. The context is 335 bullets shot into Herzog and her family as they hid in a car trapped under Israeli fire. The context is that the Australian ruling class is still providing Israel with weapon parts of F-35 jets that unleash absolute hellfire on the population of Gaza. Shame! The context is that Albanese and the Australian government continue to support, justify, and fund the mass murder of Palestinians. Shame! But let's be real. We all know the true aim of this visit. Herzog himself, 2 days ago, in an interview with the Australian, said, "Australia and Israel are ideal partners." Shame! He said that without Israel, Europe is at risk, the US is at risk, and we know that is because Israel remains the watchdog of the US and of Western imperialism in the Middle East. We know that without Israel, the US and Australia would need new military bases in the Middle East, because military domination in the area means access to trade routes, it means access to resources, it means access to geopolitical power. And if you've been paying attention in Australia, you would have noticed that Perth is now the most expensive city to live in. You would have noticed that we are unable to fund hospitals, we're unable to fund social services, but the Australian government is more than happy to spend $368 billion in the next decade on nuclear-powered death machines. That is why our government, our media, the entirety of the Australian ruling class is trying their darn hardest to oppress this movement. That is why they have prevented the use of the word genocide when reporting on Gaza for over a year. That is tonight. We're going to continue to protest against this hellscape, this capitalist hellscape that we live in, until we're all free, until Palestine is free, from the river to the sea.
To protect their genocidal mates. Shame. And here's an update for you, friends. This afternoon in Sydney at Bondi Beach, a man was arrested simply for yelling shame in the direction. That is what is happening to this country. They said, your son. But just to introduce our last speaker, and we have saved this amazing woman for last because she for 2 years has been bringing us the most powerful stories that Palestinian experience. It is the incredible Hiba Farah. She's the chair of Friends of Palestine WA. She's part of APAM doing critical work at a national level. And we are so lucky to have her amazing leadership here in Western Australia. Thank you, Hiba.
When it was said that the Israeli president is coming here to Australia on a state visit, that the red carpet is being rolled out for that war criminal, I stopped and asked myself, is this how our government sees social cohesion? That term that has been fed to us without understanding its meaning. After spending over 2 years screaming with pain in these streets, the answer to our screams of pain and despair was extending an invitation to the president of the so-called state that causes it and caused it all. The man who signed his name on missiles that were sent to bring death and destruction to my beloved city, Herzog. The man who said there are no innocent civilians in Herzog. The man whose so-called state had killed the best of us. No innocents, no children, no mothers, no fathers, no families, no lives worth sparing. Today, the hand that signed the bombs that killed tens of thousands of innocent Palestinians is shaking the hands of our so-called leaders. In an act of moral failure, the normalization of mass killing, the laundering of war crimes through ceremony, the transformation of genocide into a photo opportunity. How are we expected to move past this when the genocide is not abstract, not historical? How are we meant to move past mountains of bodies of loved ones? How are we meant to move past an entire nation's plan to erase our people? There are no distant decisions buried in archives. These are signatures on weapons, words spoken without shame, lives ended in real time, when those who ordered the killing of civilians are welcomed and honored on our soil. We are told clearly do not matter. That suffering can be managed with ceremony, that accountability can be postponed indefinitely if Israel is involved. To move past this would require forgetting, and forgetting is exactly what is being demanded of us. Forget the children under the rubble, forget the families erased, forget the statements that denied their innocence, forget the tens of thousands of innocent civilians that were killed. The red carpet is not neutral, it's a signal. It tells the world that some crimes are negotiable. Some deaths are acceptable. And some hands are clean enough to shake, no matter how much blood they carry. How dare they talk about moving past this? Moving past what? The rubble, the mass graves, the deliberate erasure of civilian innocence, the children, the little hands, the little feet, the little eyes, and the screams. Moving past the screams that live in our heads, the ones that haven't faded away yet. Moving past what? The fact that there has been no accountability, no justice, not even a pause in the killing. All for what? Only red carpets and silence? We are being told very clearly that power matters more than human life. And that Palestinian blood is cheap enough to ignore when it comes to our government. We are being told here that he is here to mourn the 15 victims killed in Bondi. What about us? You're bringing our killer here before our eyes instead of locking him up. You're celebrating his visit. This visit is an insult to every victim, every survivor, every person who still believes our people's lives are sacred. This visit tells the world that you can sign bombs, justify the slaughter of civilians, deny the humanity of an entire population, and still be honored by our government. This visit says that a genocide of my people is not a deal breaker, that the mass murder is forgivable if you are useful enough. My friends, we are not required to accept this. We are not obligated to be polite in the face of atrocity. And because silence is not an option, it is cowardice, we are all here. Destruction of an entire population. And history will not forget red carpets rolled on our blood. And it will remember who shook hands with the killers while tens of thousands of innocents were buried beneath the rubble. We will not move past this by pretending it is normal. We will not move past this by looking away. We move forward only by refusing complicity. By naming this for what it is, and by rejecting the lie that genocide can ever be a time in history. Genocide is when history stops. From this day on, I will see the red carpet differently. It's not led from tradition, it's soaked with children's blood. In my eyes, they're not walking on fabric. They're walking on crushed bodies, on my people, flattened so power doesn't have to trip over and look down. Every step on that carpet is a decision to ignore the killed. Every smile is paid for with someone else's child. You do not roll out a red carpet over mass graves unless you've decided that these lives never mattered. We all know that what's being honored here isn't diplomacy, it's permission. Permission to continue the killing. Permission to deny innocence. Permission to wash blood away with protocol. That carpet isn't welcoming a guest. It's covering up a crime scene. And history will remember who chose to walk on it. We are here to remind the world that we are not part of this disgrace. We are here and will remain here to give that war criminal the welcome he really, really deserves. We are told to be quiet, to be patient, to wait for our turn for justice. And our answer to all that is total rejection. Palestine is not going to disappear because it's inconvenient to the killers and their supporters. Palestine will remain in our hearts, in our minds, on our lips. History does not remember those who stayed comfortable, it remembers those who stood the ground. And now, more than ever, we say it and we say it loud. From the river to the sea, Palestine! From the river to the sea, and Herzog to the ICC.
He was in the Netanyahu war cabinet, and he is coming to Perth on Thursday the 26th of February. So, Poplar, friends of Palestine WA on social media, because we will not let this stand. And we want you to join in as well. The next march is on the 8th of March to recognise International Women's Day and the incredible efforts of Palestinian women. North up Barracks, West through Murray Street Mall and back to Forest Place. I hope you know the city better than me, but let's follow those guys in the front. But as we leave, friends, I want you to keep in mind what Hiba just told us. How Palestinian Australians feel
batteries, folks.
Say
Phone's running out of batteries. I have no idea how the sound was, because I'm using a new mic. Hope it worked. Didn't really have time to test it. The fuzz.
Herzog!
Okay, that's all for tonight, folks.